Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Leo Vance believed in control. At 36, it was the bedrock of his profession and his personality. As a maritime pilot in Seattle, his job was to board colossal container ships in the turbulent waters of Puget Sound and guide them. To guide them through treacherous channels. To the port. He steered giants, worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Through fog and current, making life or death decisions in the space of a heartbeat. Calmness wasn't a trait for Leo. It was a tool, honed to perfection. People trusted him. With their cargo, their vessels, their lives. He trusted himself. To never falter. His professional life was a flawless execution of procedure and foresight. He believed his personal life was the same. He was married to Tessa Reed. She was 34. A vibrant and ambitious public relations manager for a high-end fashion label. Their marriage, 9 years in, was what Leo considered his safe harbor, in the chaos of the world. They had met at a mutual friend's rooftop party. A decade prior, Tessa had captivated him instantly, not with quiet grace, but with an effervescent energy that drew people to her like a magnetic force. She had an easy laugh, and a way of making every single person feel like they were the most important one in the room. Leo, quieter, more introspective, was drawn to that energy. She was the brilliant flame. To his steady, watchful presence. She lit up every room, and he found a certain satisfaction in being the one she came home to. The one who saw the flame dim to a soft, warm glow at the end of the day. After 2 years of dating, marriage felt like the logical, correct next step. Everything just seemed to fit into the life plan he had meticulously constructed in his mind. They bought a comfortable house. A quiet, tree-lined neighborhood with a view of the distant water. It had a large, green yard, where they planned to one day watch their children play. They didn't have children yet. A point of quiet, unresolved discussion. The plan was to try next year. Once a major brand launch Tessa was overseeing was complete, and Leo could secure a more predictable shift rotation. Their routines were intense. Running on parallel tracks that often failed to intersect. Leo's work was demanding. Shifts that rotated around the clock. He could be gone for a full day navigating a vessel. Sleeping in pilot quarters, always alert, always focused, knowing that a single miscalculation could lead to disaster. Tessa was in constant motion of a different kind. Her world was one of launches, press events, and client dinners. It demanded her constant presence, frequent travel, and a wide, ever-expanding network of contacts. She was outgoing, a brilliant conversationalist, and perpetually attached to her phone. Replying to messages, coordinating with teams, soothing egos. Leo admired her dedication. He told himself he did. He saw it as a reflection of his own commitment. Even if it meant their shared time was dwindling to rushed breakfasts and exhausted, wordless evenings. They operated on an unspoken agreement. Or so Leo believed. Mutual trust. Space for professional growth. Unconditional support. It was a perfect, modern partnership. The foundation was solid. He had checked the blueprints himself. The first signs of trouble, when he looked back on them later, were as subtle as a shift in the current. Almost imperceptible. Unless you knew exactly what to look for. And Leo always knew what to look for. It began. With time. Tessa started staying at the office later. More often, she'd arrive home after 10 at night, smelling of expensive perfume and exhaustion, but always armed with a plausible excuse. A launch event ran long. A last-minute crisis with a demanding client. A technical issue with a presentation, she had to fix it in person. Leo, the ever-understanding husband, never questioned it. He trusted her. More than that, he understood the demands of a high-pressure career. He would simply nod. Heat up the dinner he'd saved for her. And listen. Then came the trips. Tessa had always traveled for work. Portland. San Francisco. But in the past few months, the trips had become more frequent. And closer to home. A strategy session, in Bellevue. A store opening. In Tacoma. A client meeting, in Kirkland. Always nearby. Always just for the day. But they served to keep her away fracturing their evenings, their weekends. It was during this period that Leo began to notice a different kind of change, one that was emotional, not logistical. Tessa became more distant. Their conversations grew shallow, revolving around schedules and household chores. She was always distracted, her attention held captive by the glowing screen of her phone, even as they sat across from each other at the dinner table. He would watch her as she scrolled, a small, private smile playing on her lips. It was a smile of genuine amusement, of secret connection. It was a smile, he realized with a cold pang in his chest, that he hadn't seen her direct at him in a very long time. When he would ask, she would give a vague, dismissive answer. Oh, just a ridiculous meme from the work group chat. Or, a friend is sharing some absurd gossip. Leo wanted to believe her. He told himself he was tired, that the stress of his job was making him paranoid. He was a man who dealt in facts and certainties, not vague, unfounded suspicions. But a growing unease began to gnaw at him. A subtle corrosion of the peace he so valued. He started to pay closer attention. Not as a suspicious husband, but as a pilot, scanning the horizon for the first sign of a storm. He noted the times she came home. In a small, private journal. He mentally catalogued the frequency of her trips. He was just gathering data. He told himself. He wasn't accusing her of anything. He was simply observing. The turning point, the moment the data formed an undeniable pattern, came on a crisp Friday in October. Leo was scheduled to work until 5. But a last-minute change meant his job was done by 3. He was free. His first thought was to surprise Tessa. He knew she was at her downtown office, finalizing details for a massive holiday campaign. He imagined picking her up early, taking her to that small Italian restaurant she loved on the waterfront. It was an opportunity, he thought, to reconnect. It was a perfect plan. He got in his car and drove. The receptionist at her office greeted him with a warm smile. "Hi, Leo, here for Tessa?" He nodded. "Thought I'd steal her away for an early dinner." The receptionist's brow furrowed. "Oh. But she left, over an hour ago. Said she had an off-site meeting." A knot of ice formed in Leo's stomach. An hour ago. Tessa had texted him just 2 hours earlier, saying she would be swamped at the office until at least 8. Why lie? Down in his car, his heart was pounding. He tried to rationalize. Maybe she forgot to update him. Maybe her phone died. But the unease had now grown into a sharp, painful certainty. Then he remembered. The location sharing feature. A safety precaution. Her idea. He pulled out his phone. His fingers moving with a cold, detached precision. He opened the tracking app. He saw her icon. A small red dot, blinking. Blinking at an address on the edge of the city, near the industrial waterfront. An area of modern, nondescript business hotels. He zoomed in. The name came into focus. The Cedar Crest Hotel. With a sickening lurch, he clicked on the location history. The ground seemed to vanish from beneath him. The same hotel. Appearing repeatedly, over the past 2 months. Always on Wednesdays. And Fridays. Always. In the afternoon. He didn't think. He acted. He started the car and drove. His knuckles white on the steering wheel. The 20-minute trip felt like an eternity. He saw her car. Parked near the side entrance. His stomach churned. He walked into the lobby. He approached the front desk. And the calm descended upon him. His professional mode. "Good afternoon," he said, his voice even and steady. "My wife, Tessa Reed, has a reservation. She asked me to meet her. But I seem to have forgotten the room number." The attendant hesitated. He typed. "Ah, yes. Miss Reed. Room 312. But per policy, I do need to call the room to confirm." Leo didn't wait. "Thank you. That's all I needed." He turned. And walked directly toward the elevators. He rode to the 3rd floor. His heart hammering. His palms sweating. The hallway was silent. Room 312 was at the very end. He stopped. He took a single, deep breath. And then, he knocked. Footsteps. The door opened. A stranger stood there. A man of about 40. Hair damp from a shower. Wrapped in nothing but a white hotel towel. He looked confused. Yeah? Can I help you? Leo didn't answer him. His eyes moved past the man and into the room. He saw Tessa. She was sitting on the edge of the unmade bed, wearing a white hotel robe. Her hair messy, her face pale as paper. Her eyes met his. And in them, he saw pure, unadulterated terror. She froze. Leo, she breathed. A strangled whisper. The man in the towel turned, and finally understood. He stepped back. Look, man, I can explain. Leo cut him off with a look. A look of such cold, absolute authority, it made seasoned sea captains flinch. You don't need to, he said. His voice dangerously quiet. He turned his gaze back to Tessa. She was standing now, shaking uncontrollably. Get dressed, he commanded. We're going home. His voice was low, controlled. But there was a chill in it that made Tessa nod without a word. She scrambled to grab her clothes, and rushed into the bathroom. The man tried again. Dude, I'm really sorry. I didn't know she was. Leo raised a single hand, silencing him. I don't care who you are, he said, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. But you will soon. He turned and walked back down the hallway to wait. The drive home was a silent, suffocating nightmare. Leo drove on autopilot. The shock had passed, replaced by a cold, crystalline clarity. While waiting at a red light, he pulled out his phone. With methodical calm, he took screenshots of the GPS history. Every visit. Every date. Every time. He saved everything to the cloud. He emailed copies to himself. Evidence. He needed evidence. It wasn't about emotion anymore. They arrived home as the sun was setting. The beauty of it felt like a personal insult. Tessa hesitated in the entryway. A stranger in her own home. Leo went straight to his study. He printed out the screenshots. He laid them out on the kitchen table. In chronological order. A briefing. She stood frozen in the doorway. He finally looked up at her. His expression, unreadable. Do you have something to say? That broke her. The tears came. Racking sobs that shook her body. She reached for his arm. But he pulled away. Leo, please, she wept. Please, let me explain. Then explain, he said. His voice, pure ice. It was a mistake, she sobbed. A terrible, terrible mistake. How many times? He asked, pointing at the printouts. Count them. How many times did you make this mistake? I don't know, she whispered. Maybe 8, 10 times? 10 times is not a mistake, Tessa, he said. 10 times is a choice. A series of choices. He leaned forward. Who is he? Dominic Croft, she whispered. He owns a company. He was just attentive. He was funny. He made me laugh. And that justifies it? Leo's voice rose, sharp and brittle. That justifies you cheating on me? Lying to my face? Every single day? No, she cried, nothing justifies it. I felt so alone, Leo. You're always working. Always gone. Do not try to blame this on me. He slammed his hand on the table. Tessa jumped. If you were unhappy, you should have talked to me. But you didn't. You chose to sleep with another man. He kept going. Relentless. Is he married, too? Silence. Leo let out a short, bitter laugh. Of course, he is. So, you're both destroying two families. Wonderful. He stepped back. It's over, Tessa. The marriage is over, she begged. She pleaded. But his decision was made. That night, she slept in the guest room. The next morning, a Saturday, Leo woke up early. He sat at his desk and began his work. He researched divorce laws. He took meticulous notes. Then, he did something else. He searched online for Dominic Croft. He found his social media profile. Public. He was married to a woman named Helena. They had 2 young children. The page was a gallery of a happy family. Leo felt a brief pang of something. But he pushed it down. Helena deserved to know the truth. It wasn't revenge, he told himself. It was justice. He created a new, anonymous email account. He wrote a short, direct message. He attached 3 of the clearest GPS screenshots. And he sent it. The die was cast. He had administered justice. Now, he would simply watch the consequences unfold. The bomb Leo had planted, detonated over the weekend. On Monday morning, Helena Croft confronted her husband. He tried to deny it, but the evidence was overwhelming. She kicked him out of the house. She called a divorce lawyer. And then, she contacted Tessa's company. On Tuesday, Tessa was called into a meeting with HR. She came home that evening, completely shattered. The company had immediately terminated its contract with Dominic's firm. Blacklisted him. They had issued Tessa a formal and final warning. She wasn't fired. But her career there was effectively over. Her reputation in ruins. Dominic called her, screaming that she had ruined his life. Then he hung up and blocked her number. The wreckage was total. When Leo handed Tessa the divorce papers that Wednesday, there was no fight left in her. She signed everything. She accepted a financial settlement that was far less than she was legally entitled to, just wanting it to be over. The divorce was finalized in 3 months. Surprisingly fast. During that time, Leo buried himself in work. He methodically erased Tessa from his life. He blocked her number. Her social media. He packed away photos into boxes. And stored them in the attic. A tomb for a life that no longer existed. 6 months later, Leo's life was completely different. He had started therapy. Not because he felt broken, he explained, but to process the event in a healthy and efficient manner. The therapist helped him see that Tessa's betrayal was not his failure, but a reflection of her own flawed choices. It was a comforting, validating conclusion. He also began exploring new hobbies. Rock climbing. He loved the mental challenge. The absolute focus required. It quieted his mind. There, he met new people. Including an instructor named Kate. She had a warm, genuine smile. And a calm, grounded energy he found appealing. They started talking. For the first time in almost a year, Leo felt a real connection. He wasn't ready for a new relationship, he told himself. But the possibility no longer felt frightening. It felt like a logical next step. The last thing Leo heard about Tessa was that she had quit her job and moved back in with her parents. Far away from the painful memories. A year after the discovery, Leo sat in his living room. The house felt truly his now. He had rearranged the furniture. Painted the walls a calm, neutral gray. He had removed any lingering trace of Tessa. It was his space. Under his control. He looked out the window at the backyard. Where the first spring flowers were beginning to bloom. A symbol of renewal. He thought about what had happened. He could have remained trapped in bitterness. But he had chosen a different path. The revenge he exacted was surgical, he reasoned. Necessary. He had simply exposed the truth. And allowed the natural consequences to unfold. It had not consumed him. He had learned his lessons. He learned that trust, once shattered, cannot be rebuilt. He learned that the most powerful response to betrayal is the calm, decisive act of removing the source of that betrayal from your life. And building something better. The last time Leo thought about Tessa with any real feeling was on a Saturday afternoon, high up on a challenging wall at the bouldering gym. Kate was watching from the mat below, an encouraging smile on her lips. He reached the top. He looked down. The height didn't scare him. Nothing really scared him anymore. He had survived the fall. He had learned to climb again. And now, he was higher than he had ever been. He was free. He rappelled down. Kate greeted him with a high five. That was amazing, Leo. Just takes focus, he said, a small, confident smile on his face. Later that evening, after he and Kate had dinner, he dropped her off at her apartment. On the drive home, he stopped at a red light. He pulled out his phone. A reflex. His thumb hovered over his apps. He and Kate had recently enabled location sharing. For safety, of course. It was his idea this time. His thumb moved over the icon for the map. He saw her small, reassuring green dot, stationary inside her apartment building. Exactly where it was supposed to be. He didn't open it. He didn't need to check the history. Not tonight. He put the phone down. And when the light turned green, he drove home to his quiet, orderly house. Feeling completely and utterly in control. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next.